India wanted to buy 114 Rafale fighters in a deal worth up to $43 billion. But the sticking point is India's demand for access to the aircraft's source codes. The source code is essentially the brain and heart of a fighter jet. It controls the radar, the mission computers, the electronic warfare suite, and weapon integration. Without these codes, India cannot independently integrate its own weapons onto the Rafale. Every upgrade, every modification would require French permission and French technical support. India would be completely dependent on France for the jet's entire operational life. And guess what? France said no, flat out refused to share full source codes. The Indian media itself admitted that India is acquiring Rafale jets without a brain. Now here's where it gets really interesting, and where Pakistan enters the picture. The source code dispute didn't happen in a vacuum. It escalated dramatically after the India-Pakistan conflict. According to multiple regional and Western reports, the Pakistan Air Force shot down 6 Indian fighter jets in the opening hours of that conflict, and at least 3 of those were Rafales. Let me repeat that. The much-hyped Rafale, the jet India spent billions on, was shot down by PAF pilots. Indian Chief of Defense Staff General Chauhan confirmed that Indian jets were downed, though he refused to specify how many. But the real story is what happened next. After these losses, France's Dassault Aviation wanted to send an audit team to inspect India's Rafale fleet and verify there were no technical issues with the jets. And what did India do? India blocked Dassault's team from inspecting their Rafales and refused to let French engineers assess what happened. Think about this. A country that claims to be a major military power won't even let the manufacturer examine the jets that allegedly failed in combat. Why is France being so stubborn? There are multiple layers to this. First, France has serious concerns about India's deep military relationship with Russia. The BrahMos cruise missile, which India proudly calls indigenous, is actually a joint venture with Russia. France fears that if India gets access to Rafale's software, Russian engineers working on BrahMos integration could potentially access sensitive NATO standard technology. Second, France is protecting its economic interests. If India can independently integrate weapons and update systems, France loses the lucrative after-sales market for weapons, components, repairs, and upgrades. Third, and most importantly, France has historically guarded these codes from almost all customers, even NATO allies. Full source code access is simply not offered in international defense deals. France has offered limited integration options under Dassault supervision, but India demands full independence. Now, here's where India's desperation becomes comical. India has threatened to cancel the entire deal and walk away from negotiations. Indian officials have publicly stated, no software control, no deal. But let's analyze this threat seriously. What are India's alternatives if they abandon the Rafale deal? The Su-57 from Russia? That jet is still not fully combat ready, and its production numbers are tiny. The American F-35? The US is even more restrictive about source codes than France. Indigenous Tejas? The Tejas program is decades behind schedule and vastly underpowered compared to modern fighters. India's options are extremely limited. Meanwhile, France has other customers. The Rafale is a proven combat platform with orders from Egypt, Qatar, Greece, Croatia, the UAE, and Indonesia. France can afford to lose the Indian deal. India cannot afford to lose access to Western fighter technology. Now, let's discuss why this all matters to Pakistan. The Rafale debacle exposes something fundamental about India's military procurement strategy. India talks loudly about Atma-Nirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India, but when push comes to shove, India relies entirely on foreign suppliers who don't fully trust them with sensitive technology. India has spent billions on Rafales that they can't fully control, that require foreign permission for upgrades, and that their own allies refuse to fully empower. Compare this with Pakistan. Pakistan's JF-17 Thunder program, co-developed with China, gives us full access to source codes and complete integration capabilities. Pakistan's J-10 Sea Fleet operates with full operational autonomy. Pakistan's defense strategy is built on genuine partnerships and indigenous capability growth, not begging reluctant allies for technology handouts. So what's the bottom line here? France's refusal to share Rafale source codes has done more than just stall a multi-billion-dollar deal. It has exposed India's fundamental weakness, the gap between India's superpower rhetoric and its technological dependency on others. A nation that cannot independently operate, upgrade, or even fully understand its most advanced fighter jets is not a true military power. It's a customer with delusions of grandeur. If you enjoyed this analysis, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video. Drop a comment below. Do you think India will beg France to restart negotiations, or will New Delhi pretend this humiliation never happened? I'll see you in the next one.